Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today it's time to explore how Goku Black has changed over the recent patch. Starting off, his 2H has been sped up. This has its pros and cons. Of course, it's easier to punish aerial options like super dashes and IADs, but it's no longer a natural frame trap, it true strings. Before, there was always a 1 frame gap between 5H and 2H, which helped me catch many mashes. Now that it true strings, delaying it to get the same frame trap effect is not as effective since you won't get this perfect frame trap, but one that has more variability since it's a heavy. You may accidentally give opponents too much time to counter you. 214M teleport now brings you much further back into the air. This just gives you a better escape in pressure situations whenever you want. Just be wary of the startup in neutral situations. And it still works alongside the J214M for your spark baits. A more valuable change is with 214H. It has been sped up to the same speed as 214L and actually has him appear earlier too. As a result, it has improved his level 3 Oki. Doing 214H right when he lands into JH now hits meaty as a safe jump on the other side. Combo with 5M. Fast fall low 2M also almost hits meaty, but is a very fast option to overwhelm your opponents. You can alternate this with 214LJH for the same side JH to throw them off. 214H is actually easier and more flexible than 214LJH's timing, and you can also air dash JM to cross back over after 214H for the next layer. This is actually tight enough to keep you safe. If you option select JM with 4S inputs, you can counter their options. So his Oki is actually pretty solid now for half a bar. And his mid-screen 5L 214H JH setup also works as well. Be careful of using this in neutral too much and wasting meter instead of just moving forward. In addition, doing 214H plus assist mix is quicker, so the timing is a bit less strict for your options. M and H God Slicer now have invincibility to jumping attacks on the ground. A lot of people have been asking for this, and now beats super dashes and other aerial approaches. 236M is great after 5S, it frame traps from full screen and prevents them from countering with a super dash, but they can just block it, same with 236H. Adding an assist can make this very strong though, since you can dash back in to continue pressure if they do hold that. It's actually a bit hard to punish solo, especially since you can also dash away. It can also be useful when they're in this float area before falling, making it great to use alongside projectile assist to get a turn going on block. Just be careful because it's still punishable if you miss and they're above you. Remember that the anti-air property only works with the grounded versions and not in the air. This can also be a quick aggressive escape tool in zone 1, but again, be careful of blowing past them, which gives them a chance to counter. Now moving on to his 5S change. The projectile part now always comes out even on block. This leads to some pressure changes. Before, you had to set it up with 2 Ls to push you back for the 5S to whiff, allowing the projectile to come out. But now you can use it after any normal mid-screen except a close 5L. Just make sure you're not close because it's negative. After the other normals like 5M or 2M, the projectile leaves you plus 20 on block. It's easier to get into than the previous 2L setups, and it's much more ambiguous as to when you will use 5S. From here, there's actually a small gap between the slice and projectile. They can interact in this gap, so you need to set it up by frame trapping with a slightly delayed 5H. Once you get the respect and you notice them blocking, then you can actually use the 5S plus frames. Now don't hesitate to use 5H to set this up even if they do block. It's only -10 and pushes you back to avoid Ls, although it does lose to mediums. And you can 2S to extend your turn after 5H for those plus frames. This also beats some mediums. This makes it better than 2H frame trap since you can 2S after 2H, although frame trapping with 2H does give you meterless sliding knockdown, unlike 5H, which is helpful if you're mid-screen, and you can even swap corners with it. But saving your 2H is also helpful because you can add an extra layer after 5H. You can 2H frame trap instead of 2S after 5H, which beats any challenges attempts that defeat 2S, like 5M, super dashes, etc. With the 5S projectile, you can dash 5L to continue your turn since they can't mash. You could actually true string the 5S with a micro dash medium if you wanted to. You can dash block to bait options, or take a risk with IEDs that can be 2H if expected, and just the usual stuff. The dash 5M option also has the added benefit of confirming in case they get hit by the projectile if you didn't frame trap with 5H. Otherwise, this can be a very hard confirm. Even if they still reflect the projectile, they're still plus 16, so they can't really escape your turn. The reflect keeps him still, so a slightly delayed 2M here hits super meaty after the reflect. Unless they engage in the double reflect mind game, which is a much bigger risk in itself. An added benefit of them reflecting the projectile is that it recharges your assists, so you can safely continue your turn while they come back. And other options like super dash and jump can challenge the gap between the hit and projectile, but again, that's where the 5H frame trap comes in. You can also get into teleport options for more mix. After 5S hits, slightly delay the 214L to right before the projectile starts coming out. If you teleport too early, you cancel this 5S so the projectile doesn't come out. This allows you to still perform his old mix-ups if you want to. From here, a slightly delayed JM hits high and cannot be 2H. Even after they reflect the projectile, as long as you time it perfectly. This timing is very similar to air dashing JM for a crossover. Although this one is punishable, it can be tricky to deal with both left-right options where only one is escapable. These options can be accompanied by faker stuff like fastfall 2M and DR to abuse respect, but of course comes with more risk. Doing nothing can also bait out reflex, which is the only option that actually beats the same side JM. You can do the same things with 214H to go to the other side. Since it's faster though, you need to delay it a bit more or else it'll true string and they'll be able to block high even if it's in the wrong direction. You also get the backdash JM crossup as well, but you need to teleport this one without the extra delay. The same timing allows for a very meaty fastball 2M, although there's a small gap. So 214H is more potent than the L version, but it does cost some meter, so pick your options wisely. Relying on dash 5L and 214L alongside your frame traps is enough to overwhelm opponents with this 5S setup. However, things are different in the corner. Doing 5S after mediums leaves you -6, but the frame data changes with delays at different points. Besides using 2L for the classic setups, a consistent way is with 5H delay 5S to be plus 10, or 2L delay 2L 2M delay 5S to be up to plus 11 with heavy delays. The second way is worse because it's harder, less plus most of the time, and leaves you more vulnerable to mash. 5H 5S is more consistent, but you lose that good 5H frame trap after 5S. You can only frame trap with 2H after, which isn't as strong on block, since you can only special cancel. And you're not as plus, so you don't get much in the corner. You can still get a meaty dash 5M and 5L setups, but the 5H pushes you too far to 2M. You're not even plus enough to IED or use your teleport setups. But 214H is still quick enough to throw them off guard for a fake mix if used rarely. And remember, you can always go back to the good old 2L spacing 5S routes for more plus frames and options alongside frame traps. Now moving on to his combos, being able to super dash after beams has given Goku Black more damage in the corner. Here is his scaled optimal route, that's meter list. You just need to time the 5L into 5H and make sure you don't mash the L. There's another variation with 5M instead that does slightly more damage. But this one is more inconsistent on characters and requires delays on some at the 5S and 5H points, so just stick to the 5L route for more consistency. Here's his 2M unskilled optimal meterless route. Here's his max damage 2M that was found by Silver Tabby. This one does 400 more damage for half a bar, but is a bit tight. You can always find something easier that works for you with a similar route. Overall though, Black allows for a lot of flexibility. You can beam Super Dash, J214M, 2M, etc. for 2 beams. You can get into a rejump, and many more options. A general rule of thumb though is that if your combos get too long, try doing JM jump cancel JM into J236H to make sure it doesn't drop. If you're mid-screen and you can reach the corner, you can go for this route for a lot of damage. Just keep it shorter on skilled starters. And don't forget to add his beam to his super dash confirms if you're close to the corner. S has a way better return now since you can super dash afterwards too, which saves you a bar in the corner. And you could add this after 5H for slightly more damage than regular beam and for a sauce. Thank you all for watching. I hope you guys have learned something new today. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and comment down your thoughts below. See y'all next time.